Hello and welcome if you're watching in the UK or around the world. We start with breaking news now. Taliban fighters have reached the Afghan capital, Kabul. Some reports say they've begun entering the city, but a spokesman for the militants said that they'd been told to wait. The Afghan presidential palace has tweeted that gunshots have been heard at a number of points around Kabul. These pictures, filmed by the BBC in Kabul, show people attempting to leave the city. The Taliban says negotiations are taking place to ensure a peaceful transition of power. US and British troops have been arriving in Afghanistan to evacuate diplomatic staff from their embassies. Now, earlier, thousands of Afghans in the capital were seen trying to withdraw their savings from ATMs as fears gripped the capital. Overnight, the insurgents seized the eastern city of Jalalabad. Local leaders handed it over without a fight, according to reports. It means the Taliban can secure the roads that connect Afghanistan to Pakistan, further consolidating their grip on power. OK, let's speak now to Anbarasan Ethirajan, who joins us live from Delhi. Anbarasan, this really is a frightening, shocking and surprising situation. I've been speaking to Kabul residents all night and day. This is not what they thought would happen.
Yeah, the change has come, or the dramatic events have happened so quickly. Even people can understand what is going on, even to comprehend. Every day, things were moving faster than even people could think. I was speaking to one of my colleagues from the Afghan service a short while ago, and he was saying that things are changing so rapidly, we're not even able to understand what was going on here. And there were a lot of rumors and fear and confusion. And also many people blamed the government for not coming out and taking the leadership in clearing these doubts, because this involves the life of millions of people. As we were on air a couple of hours ago, there were a lot of reports about the Taliban near the city of Kabul. As we made it very, very clear, they did not enter the city. The fighters who were coming from outside, they were seen on the outskirts of the city. And another Interior Ministry spokesperson has also confirmed to the BBC colleague in Kabul that they did not enter the city, because this can create a lot of panic among people. But the whole political situation is confusing for people. People, as you mentioned, are standing outside banks trying to withdraw their money, savings. And many people are trying to leave the country by trying to, scrambling to get visas in foreign embassies. I saw some videos and pictures on social media. And people are trying to, store even food. As one colleague told me, a taxi driver was phoning his family and then said, buy 3 bags of flour and then keep them at home, because they don't know what is going to happen. But that is where many Afghan people on social media complaining why the government is not coming out and then clearing the situation. At least at this point, they should have come out.
Indeed. Let's just talk about the panic for a moment, because I've been speaking to Kabul residents who said, for example, that the Taliban had entered Sharanao, which is the center of the city. And we later heard that, as you say, people were trying to withdraw money. There was so much panic at the bank that the guards had to shoot to push the people back. And so the fear constantly is that the Taliban are here.
Yeah, that is what many people should be very careful about what we are saying. If you say that Taliban have entered the city, that will create panic. And as we know, as of now, after speaking to my colleagues, I said they were only seen on the outskirts, and they were also not in an aggressive posture, according to another colleague. So the Taliban, we have to understand there are talks going on as we speak, both in the presidential palace as well as in Doha. And the Interior Minister of Afghanistan has just issued a video saying that there are talks about peaceful transfer of power, a transitional government. That is quite a dramatic statement coming out from a senior government official. We still haven't heard from the Afghan presidential palace. So I'm only giving you what the Interior Minister has been saying. So that means President Ghani and his government are leaving, that they are now talking about a transitional government, which means whoever may be in the transitional government, this government is not going to exist. That is what is according to this Interior Minister's statement and his video, which has been carried widely on Afghan media as well. So the end seems to be quite near, and the Taliban spokesman, they have made it very clear. In fact, Dr. Naeem, one of the spokesperson, he was telling the Taliban fighters instructed to stay at the gates of Kabul and not enter the city, which means outskirts. until the transition takes place, the Afghan government is responsible for the security of Kabul. This is Mohammed Naeem, a spokesman for the Taliban. So if you look at the Taliban's longer statement, they're making it very, very clear. Talks are going on, stay back, don't do anything. So as we speak in the next hour, probably we may get more details about the future. There are lots of speculation about what is going to happen to President Ghani and others, because things are changing very, very rapidly. But as we speak, there is no news of any fighting or anything inside Kabul city. And many offices have been closed, shops have been closed. Yes, people are worried, a lot of confusion and fear.
Very much so. Anbar Ahsan, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. Now, Haroon Rahimi is Assistant Professor of Law at the American University of Afghanistan in Kabul, who joins me now from Istanbul. Haroon, just tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling as you hear all the news come out of Kabul.
Just to give you an update, first of all, the people from different sides, both the pro-Taliban sides and pro-government sides, are telling me that the President Ghani has resigned. There's a photo emerged where President Ghani is embracing, hugging the Mullah brother, the head of political office of Taliban in Doha, which is now in Kabul, who's in Kabul, according to sources on both sides. And the report, these sources say that Mullah brother is going to be the head of interim government, and the supreme leader of Taliban, Mullah Hibatullah Akhund, is going to appear in a Louis Jirga in Kandahar very soon. And the security of Kabul will remain with the Afghan National Security Forces. The Afghanistan Defense Minister just appeared in a video saying that until everything is concluded, we will be in charge of the security. But the situation is still chaotic. Kabul is home to 5 million people, a lot of people with guns, a lot of people with a lot to lose, a lot of people with armored vehicles, which on good days, they would not stop for police. On good days, they would not care about traffic laws. Today, they are afraid. They are afraid that what's going to happen to them when they now know that the government is gone. So a lot of people are getting out, and I imagine there's going to be a lot of chaos, and the government forces may not hold together as strongly as many hoped, because even though amnesty is promised, how credible those promises are and how credible they're perceived by the forces remains a question. In terms of how I feel,
there are a lot of concerns, and just to pick up on what you said earlier, we have to be very careful about the sort of rumours that are circulating that Mullah Baradar has turned up in Kabul. The sources I'm speaking to are saying that there's a delegation going to Doha tomorrow. There's a lot of confusion about how the actual process is currently unfolding. There are pictures emerging. We just have to be careful about the information that's coming out. So we have no verification on that. And we are hoping to speak to the Taliban spokesperson very soon here on the program. So hopefully we can get some clarity on some of the things you're talking about. Because as you say, there is confusion, there is panic, there is concern. And everyone is that I'm speaking to in Kabul are saying the Taliban are in my neighborhood. But the Taliban themselves have issued a statement saying we're not letting our fighters in.
So one thing is that Taliban were in Kabul. I mean, Kabul was not free of Taliban. They had organized attacks on the Ministry of Defense, the Defense Ministry home not long ago, and they said the attacks would continue in retaliation to the airstrikes. That was their statement. So it means they have soldiers in Kabul, and they are there. Also, there is a lot of, as you said, chaos. A lot of gunmen in Kabul. They don't have to be Taliban. If they appear like Taliban to many people, I imagine they feel like Taliban are there, and that's going to have a psychological impact. But the Taliban have instructed their soldiers. I'm sure you've heard the voice message that is supposedly coming from their military commander, the head of the military commission, telling them not to enter Kabul. That is true. But also, I think in terms of what I feel right now, I think we are at a bone moment. Many of your audience may not remember, but Afghanistan was at the moment like this not long ago. 20 years ago, the U.S. toppled the Taliban government, and there was a conference in Bonn, Germany, and the Taliban were excluded at the time. The defeated Taliban were excluded, and the government was formed with exclusion of Taliban. It seems like we are headed towards that kind of scenario again. If the interim authority to which the President Ghani is going to transfer power is not a neutral entity that can actually be credible in terms of facilitating a real inclusive government, and Taliban choose to use their military upper hand to exclude anti-elements from the interim government, and then have their own definition of what counts as an inclusive government, who's going to be included in an inclusive government. If they go down that path, we will be repeating the mistake of Bonn. The mistake that was the exclusion of Taliban.
Indeed, and just to pick up on some of your points, I mean, they are currently in places like Herat, and we're already hearing, for example, that university students are being told, female university students are being told to go back home and wait, that they don't have orders about what to do next in terms of the university. So there is a lot of concern when people in Kabul look at what's happening in places like Herat and Kandahar, where people are being pushed out of work and school, especially women.
Absolutely. I mean, that is absolutely true. The image hasn't emerged of what a Taliban government would look like. The reports coming out show a variation. Sometimes there are places of reports, credible reports, eyewitness reports that show mistreatment of women, harsh punishments, women being targeted for how they look, and times women being denied, being told to go to home from their works and their place of education. Sometimes those are meant to be said to be temporary measures. Other times they're just plain what they are saying, telling people. Other places they are saying these are temporary measures. We're gonna make decisions on this, and we are still committed to women education in accordance with Sharia, which really doesn't clarify anything, because Sharia really, when you talk about Sharia, they're talking about fiqh, which basically means they are talking about a collection of opinions, and there is a great variety on, and there are a lot of juristic opinions that diverge on many of those issues, as you may know. I think what's important at this point is that, I mean, this is a critical moment. If Taliban refuse to include anti-Taliban elements into the government because they have the upper hand, because they can, the same way U.S. could exclude Taliban at the first Bonn, because the Taliban were defeated. And at this point, let's not kid ourselves, it is a complete defeat, and the Taliban have prevailed militarily. As to how we got here, that's a different question, but they have prevailed militarily. So they can choose to exclude the anti-Taliban elements.
Indeed.
That will risk them domestic legitimacy. That will risk them international legitimacy. And I certainly believe it's going to lead us to a place like this again, because that was the exclusion of Taliban that contributed to the Taliban regrouping, re-emerging, because they had no way to participate in politics. They had no way to actually be part of the government because they were excluded. If Taliban do the same thing, then we will risk being at this moment one more time. It's going to be a vicious cycle.
Afghanistan finding itself in the same position. Haroon Rahimi joining us there from Istanbul. Thank you very much.